Hey, everybody. Welcome to Daniel Davis's Deep Dive, where we're looking out for you. We're giving you the inside information you need to understand below the surface what's happening in the world around you. And as you're seeing on a lot of the mainstream media, you're just not getting all the information. And very often you don't even know what you're not getting. And that's going to be the case on this episode today. As you may have heard that the U.S. has now finally delivered the first M1A1 Abrams main battle tanks have arrived in Ukraine. And there's a lot of hope about what that may mean, and a lot of expectations based on how the M1 Abrams has performed in combat before. And first of all, I want to show you, this is what President Zelensky of Ukraine had to say about it just yesterday.
The first American-made Abrams tanks are already in Ukraine. We are preparing them to reinforce our actions against the occupiers, and it will be a significant reinforcement. We are also working to get all the other weapons capabilities we need. This includes F-16S. We are preparing pilots and infrastructure. The best thing for us is to be able to produce air defense and other advanced weapons. This is the only way to guarantee Ukraine's security.
So I want to show you a brief clip of a news report that recently talked about some of the attributes of the M1 Abrams tank and what it can do, because that'll instruct or be informed what I'm going to talk about separately. So real quick, here's what the M1 can do.
The Abrams has seen action in numerous military conflicts around the world, including Iraq and Afghanistan. Weighing more than 60 tons, it's one of the heaviest tanks in service. That makes it bulky, but it's well protected against most anti-tank weapons. Its 120mm main gun has a range in excess of 4 kilometers. What makes the M1 Abrams unique is its gas turbine engine, which uses a type of jet fuel. Although it has an impressive performance, even Washington has acknowledged it has very high fuel consumption compared to traditional diesel engines. The US also admits the tank system is hard to maintain and expensive to run. Just two of the reasons why Washington has been reluctant to deliver this battle tank to Ukraine.
There's a few things you really need to understand here about the M1 Abrams tank. Some things specifically to the tank, and then much more important, I think, for this discussion is what it can do for the war effort for Ukraine right now. Now, just to give you a little bit of background for those who may be new to our channel, I am a former armor officer in Desert Storm. I actually fought in an M1 Abrams, or I actually wasn't in an M1 tank myself, but I fought in a unit. I was in a different armored vehicle. But I fought in an M1 tank unit that fought in a very large tank battle, actually the largest tank battle the U.S. had fought since World War II, which was the Battle of 7-3 Easting. And then in the mid-2000s, I was also the second in command of an armored cavalry squadron as part of the 1st Armored Division in Germany. So I have some direct experience with both training and in operations within the tanks themselves. So when you hear the M1 Abrams, a lot of people think about Desert Storm. They think about 2003 invasion of Iraq, where you just saw these waves of tanks just rolling over people and blasting the enemy and having great success against a lot of the Soviet armor, the T-72s, and how it was like 10-1, 20-1 advantage, actually in some cases much more than that in the U.S. armor versus the Soviet armor. So the expectation is, as soon as this U.S. armor gets on the field, it's going to make a big difference. Unfortunately, it's not going to. In fact, it won't make hardly any difference at all. In fact, I think strategically, it won't make any difference because there's several reasons for this. Number one is the difficulty in using them, because it takes a lot of training, and not just, all right, here, sit inside. Here's the Cadillacs. Here's how you fire the thing. Here's how you drive it. Okay, good to go. Because you can train that literally in a matter of weeks about how to do those things. That's the easy part. The hard part is knowing how to fight the tank, and then how to fight the tanks together in a combined arms operation. And that takes many years of training, because you have to have experience at the leader level to know how to employ them, especially when you're talking about in a large scale offensive operation. But we've only given them 31 of these tanks so far. And just to give you an idea of the scale, that is 1 battalion worth of armor. And there are probably 5 or 6 Ukrainian brigades, and a brigade typically has 3 battalions within it. So you're talking about 5 or 6 brigades in one part of the current front line in the Zaporizhia area along this 1,000-kilometer front line in Ukraine. So you see that everywhere you go, it's going to be this narrow band of where even if it was flawlessly used, it's just not going to have any difference because of the scale of the difficulty that they have. And look, the other thing that they did mention a little in that video was the maintenance issue, and then the ammo issue, and then the ability to train, as I mentioned before here, and the fuel. The other part there is that you have to have a lot of sustainment with this vehicle. You have to do lots of training on the move. I remember when we fought in Desert Storm, is that we had to take, I think it was every 6 to 12 hours, we had to do a maintenance break where we had to stop and get the thing maintained. Now, we had dedicated maintenance officers and troop members that knew how to do it. The crew members themselves had trained extensively on this. We knew exactly what to do. We had all the supplies we need, and we could do it like clockwork. Ukraine has none of those things. And these things also use an amazing amount of fuel. This jet fuel they're talking about, it's called JP8. You got to be able to fuel that thing about every 8 to 10 hours, because get this, the engine is so powerful that it uses the same amount of gas in idle as it does at full speed going across the terrain there. That's how much fuel it takes and how much power. And it's really hard for Ukraine to keep that kind of fuel in there. The last thing I want to talk about in here is that the tank is also so effective in our army, both in Iraq in 1991 and in 2003, because it's part of a combined arms operation that is also highly skilled and very well developed. And the tank is so successful and has been because it works in close concert with our infantry, with our artillery, with our air support systems, our rocket artillery, and our air power. All those things work together, and they have trained together for a long time, so they're all employed together. It takes all of them to be successful on the battlefield. Again, this is basically just a one-off thing that Ukraine's going to try to use. And almost certainly what you're going to see is a number of these vehicles fall victim to Russian artillery or precision-guided munitions or to drone warfare, because that's one of the hallmarks of this conflict. And because Ukraine has neither the training, the maintenance capacity, or the combined arms capacity, they can't have the same effect, even with these few tanks, as that we would in a similar situation here. So bottom line is that this is not going to make any change in the battlefield, and we need to be very clear and very sober about what's possible here so that we don't have too many shattered expectations. That's it for the deep dive today. Appreciate you coming and joining. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And if you like these kinds of videos, please share them with your friends. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next episode.